Breakfast program bringing you the best in lifestyle, politics, sports and entertainment, showing every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. exclusively on Africa Independent Television. However, today, Saturday, January 26, is a Saturday like none other in the history of the weekend show. On today's special edition, we have dedicated the entire 2 hours program to discussing and dissecting the illegal suspension of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Yesterday, Friday, January 25th, President Muhammadu Buhari announced the suspension of the CGN, Walter Onogian, on the basis that he is facing trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal in regards to his false declaration of assets. It's important to note that the Court of Appeal, a higher court of jurisdiction, halted the trial of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Therefore, no one can justify this action. On today's program, I've invited lawyers, activists, politicians, members of the civil society organizations to discuss and put into perspective this flagrant disregard of our Constitution. It's important to note that a petition has emerged online overnight on change.org calling on all Nigerians to demand the legislators to invoke the article of impeachment against President Muhammadu Buhari. Stay tuned for these exclusive interviews. My name is Osasu Igbinedion, and I am your host.
It is no news that the elections are here again. And for all who would experience the exhibition of manifestos, the declarations, the speeches, the debates, the propaganda campaigns, if you can also relate to the furore on Twitter, one question that never skips my mind is, what will the people gain eventually? The electorate, say those who have shown unwavering faith in the unity and future of the country, those who have been law-abiding, patient and strong for this contraption, this British idea to find its place in the committee of dreams. This what will be their fate once voting is over. Would they have made a mistake or the best choice of their lives? Of course, you know that whoever assumes the mandate will have to grow shoulders broader than those billboards bearing their posters and promises. Like honestly, it was Abraham Lincoln, lawyer and 16th president of the United States, who defined democracy, the very system we practice or seem to, as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So the fact is, wherever it is found, be it on the minister's hill or in slums, and especially at the grassroots, the portrait of a political flag bearer stands as the image of a god, a God, as the inscription on those walls herald the coming of a prophet, a savior, that beacon of possibilities on a long-awaited miracle, or say that candidate citizens can look up to reflect the expression of a consensus driven by their genuine needs. Now, if you ever get a chance to lead, say for your competence or a large following, what would you represent? Yes, what could you do with power? Because in the words of my father, that fire which we have used to prepare our meal can make ashes too. And that is to say, you have the power to either light up lives or destroy them. Ladies and gentlemen, in all good conscience, I bet you choose the former. Because looking at 50 or a million years down the line, when school children will be raising their hands in the face of history, would you be their superhero or the villain?
Welcome back to the Weekend Show. Joining me now are our first set of panelists. We have the former Aviation Minister, Chief Femi Fani Kayode, and the spokesman of the Coalition of United Political Parties, Ikenga Ugochinere. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on today's program.
Thank you.
My first question. The suspension of the CGN by Mr. President. Is there any constitutional provision for this action?
Shall I proceed?
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Well, clearly there isn't. And it's an affront to democracy, it's an affront to humanity, and it's an affront to the whole democratic system that we're trying to put in place. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, there is no democracy in Nigeria anymore. The fact that where you have a three-tier government, separation of powers, and one arm of government, that's the executive, can superimpose its will and remove the head of another arm of government, tells you that, there's something wrong. Secondly, there's no constitutional backing for this, absolutely none. And of course, thirdly, it goes towards one thing. It's a predetermination of the election that's coming up next month. What they're trying to do is to ensure that they put in place a friendly judiciary, a friendly CJ that will set up panels so that when they rig the election, you go to court and you're not going to get real justice there. That's what's going on. So there is no democracy, there is no constitutional backing, there's a predetermination of results, and clearly this is not just unacceptable, it is pure evil, and it has a lot of implications, far more than the legal aspect, far more than violation of the laws. It also has geopolitical implications, which maybe we'll talk about later on in this program.
Mr. Ikenga, you released a statement where you said that Chief Justice of Nigeria remains as the Chief Justice of Nigeria despite his suspension by Mr. President. Do you care to elaborate on that?
Yes, first of all, I will start by saluting the Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Wat Onegem, because of yesterday we saw the statement that he's not going anywhere, which also supports the position of the opposition. But I have to say this, it's not about fight against corruption. It's about a president who is on a rampage, who feels that there's a missing link in all he has plotted to commit electoral iniquity, which is the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice of the Federation is supposed to inaugurate the panel for the 2019 election appeals at the Supreme Court. And suddenly, they smuggled a black order. You know why I call it a black order? On the 7th of January, a petition was already put together. On the 8th, the government has finished the investigation and filed charges on the 9th. That same night, the expert application to allow Tanko Mohammed to be sworn in was filed. The court did not hear it. The tribunal did not hear it. They said put them on notice. That's why you have the motion on notice that was filed on the 10th of January. On the 22nd, which was a few days ago, that same issue came up. But because the tribunal has not dealt with the issue of jurisdiction, the matter was adjourned to 28th of February, January, which is next week, Monday or thereabout. Before then, appeal court has delivered its own ruling. So there is even no order. There is no order anywhere. And let me inform you, on 21st, there was a ruling from the Federal High Court, which I'll give you a copy, by Justice Epo, where, because we got information that the president wants to force Omega at when we raised the land that he wanted to arrest him and then install his stooge, Tanko Mohammed, as the factional CJN. We raised that, and that's why we went to court. We sued Danla Duma in his personal capacity, Tanko Mohammed, and the president. And the court gave an order not to remove the CJN or swear in Tanko Mohammed. So when the president was citing the black order from the chairman of the tribunal that he's acting based on the judgment of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, there is a ruling of the Federal High Court, which is substituting, which is even superior at that time to the issue of the CCT. So what the president did was an attempt to factionalize this, the Supreme Court. And I'm happy that the NBA, the lawyers, everybody has come up to resist him. And I've also been informed that the NBA will be pulling out lawyers from the court. So this is the bridge where we must fight to defend constitutional governance.
But is it possible to have two CJNs? So let's talk about the practicality of what you're calling for Nigerians to do. You're saying that Walter Onogen should remain as the CJN. The president
has... No, not he should remain. He's the CJN. Not should remain. No, what the president committed is act of treason, with all due respect to him. What they did is unconstitutional. So it's unknown to law. It's like somebody getting an order for the president to vacate his office. It's not done. You see,
look, I think one of the challenges that we have in this country, and particularly those of us in the opposition, is that we tend to go into so much detail about very simple things. And I have immense respect for this young man here, and also for so many other people that are speaking for the opposition today. But we need to understand the nature of what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is tyranny. So you can speak all the English that you want. The truth is that this man wants to impose himself and come back as president next month. And he will do anything to ensure that. How can you explain the fact that the Constitution is clear that you need to have 2/3 of the Senate to support you as president before you can remove a CJN? Or you go through the National Judicial Council, and then you get a recommendation, and then based on that, you can now act against him. Neither of these two things have been done. Instead, what you have is a situation where he has blatantly sought to remove a CJN. Only last week, they tried to arrest this man. We blew the whistle. They threatened to arrest so many of us, simply because we told the truth, okay? After that, they froze all his accounts. We saw this coming. And then the day before you're setting up election tribunals, you now suspend him. He has no power to do this. This is a violation of the democratic order. This is a violation of the Constitution. This man should be impeached. And I'm calling on the Senate President to stop sitting on the fence. I'm calling on the Speaker of the House of Reps to stop sitting on the fence and playing games with us. This man needs to be impeached. It's as simple as that. Because if you don't impeach him, he will come back, he will declare himself as president next month, And after that, you go to the so-called election tribunals, which are set up by his stooge, and he will be declared winner and will be in tyranny all over again. This is the time to act. And I would suggest that the opposition and all those that are in what I call the resistance gather themselves together and stop being so weak in this matter. We are dealing with a tyrant. I'm prepared to say this any day, anywhere. Many people have been locked up. Many people have died. Many people have been killed by security forces and non-state players in this country over the last 3.5 years. Nobody cares about them. Deji Adeyoju is still in prison now. Melaya has just been released. Dasuki has been in prison for the last 3.5 years. This is tyranny. The press has been scandalized and raided. The judiciary has been scandalized and raided. The National Assembly itself, DSS went there, they raided the whole place. Everybody's living in fear. The media is suppressed, and that's the truth. You know it and I know it. It's very difficult to come out with a strong narrative, except, of course, the palliatives of, oh, we want another president, we want Atiku to be president, and the government didn't do too well. That is not the real issue here. The issue is not about Atiku. The issue is about the unity of our country and where all this thing is going. And let me just, before my friend comes in, let me just conclude with this point. Apart from the fact that you have breached the Constitution, you have committed treason, that you deserve to be impeached and that you're a tyrant. Apart from all that one, there's another aspect which a lot of people have not thought through, but will come to play in the next few days and weeks. That is the fact that whether we like it or not, we have to accept the fact that today we have an acting CJN who is a Northern Muslim. We have a president who is a Northern Muslim. We have a National Assembly, head of the National Assembly, Senate President, is a Northern Muslim. You have every single federal court in this country, from the CJN, that is the Supreme Court, to the Courts of Appeal, to the Federal High Court, they are all headed by Northern Muslims. You have a Speaker of the House who is a Northerner. He's a Northerner, but he's not a Muslim, he's a Christian. He's the only Christian amongst them. And then finally, and this is the point I want you to grasp very strongly, you have a situation where every single security agency in this country today, without exception, except for the Navy, every single one, paramilitary, military, intelligence, investigative agency, is headed by a Northern Muslim. And I'm asking you, and I'm asking the Nigerian people, is this what a federation is supposed to be like? Are we, because we're Southerners, second-class citizens? Are we, because we're Christians, second-class citizens? There are many good Northerners in this country, many good Northern Muslims that have stood up to Buhari and said no, Atiku and so many others, and said this is not how it's supposed to be. And we commend such people. But I am a Southern Christian, and I feel bad about this. So it's not just about politics. And I'm not going to speak simply because I want votes, and I want to say what is popular so I don't offend people from other parts of the country. I will speak the truth because I'm a servant of truth. I'm a voice of the voices. What is going on in this country is tyranny. It is wrong. It must be resisted. And Buhari must be impeached in a normal democratic situation whereby he's eased out of power. Otherwise, I conclude with this, we are heading for a dreadful civil war in this country, which will start a matter of months after he reimposes himself back in power, because nobody will accept this from him.
Mr. Ikenga, does the Senate have enough evidence or have enough cause to impeach the president?
There is enough. Obstruction of justice have been going on for a long time.
Absolutely.
Judgments of courts have been ignored by the president. In the case of us, exactly in the case of Dasuki and so on and so forth. There have been extra budgetary spending. He has spent without appropriation by the parliament. He has taken public fund and then spent it without going through the parliament. So there is a lot of things that he has done that touches on the very foundation of gross misconduct. Then to talk about the issue of going to forcefully attempt to remove the CJN, which is the height of it, is a traceable offense. Both him and Danla Duma that did that. That was an offense for impeachment. But what we are saying that Bukola Saraki and Dogora should convene the Senate, if possible, even tomorrow being Sunday. Absolutely. Because see what is happening in Venezuela when the president was messing up what the speaker of the parliament did. So desperate time requires desperate measure. Absolutely. And when a hunter starts shooting without aiming, the bird starts falling without pitching. They should summon the parliament and restate this position clear. It requires 2/3, which is under section 292 of the constitution, yes, to remove the CJN. That was not followed. You now go and plot and a crook acting in the code of conduct bureau and backdated an order and then send it and say the man is going to go, and the president suddenly started talking about rule of law. What kind of nonsense talk about rule of law is that? There have been judgments of court, over 27 of them. This man has said he will not obey them. Absolutely. He goes about talking about it arrogantly as if he's God in this country. Absolutely. And now suddenly a piece of that document comes, then the president says, oh, he's not rule of law compliant. But before then, this had been served on the president, restraining him from swearing in Tanko Mohammed. So as long as we are concerned, there is no swearing in. Yeah. He's attempting to create a faction, and he can take that CJN and that his own Supreme Court to Daura. But if it is about this country, the whole country will stand with Chief Justice of the Federation on that game, and there's nothing anybody will do about it. And let me say this: the court will be shut down, the lawyers will be handled, and let me see how he will do this nonsense.
You know, as a journalist, we strive to bring diverse opinions and balanced reportage. We've reached out to the spokesman of the Buhari campaign organization, Festus Keyamo, a SAN himself, and he said to me, for the first time, Osasu, I have no comment. We also reached out to Femi Adesina, the special advisor on media and publicity, and he said they were heading out on campaigns. We also reached out to another lawyer, Barrister Ismail Ahmed, who is a staunch APC supporter, and he also said he's heading out on campaigns. Finally, we reached Garba Shehu, who said he'll be joining us via telephone from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. later today. So we'll be giving him a call to ensure that we get the opinion of the government on this issue. Gentlemen, moving on. What can Nigerians do? Nigerians are looking at the situation right now. We've seen a lot of reports on social media. They're feeling helpless. They don't quite understand what their role should be in this process. What advice can you give the Nigerians watching today?
Right. Well, my counsel is simple and clear, and that is that this is the time for Nigerians to look within and to strengthen their resolve that they will no longer be slaves. They will no longer be intimidated. They will not just sit back and allow people to take their destiny and to push it in whichever direction they choose to push it. This is the time to rise up, not in any militant or violent manner, but to rise up in spirit. One, to pray. Secondly, to work hard to ensure that Buhari is pushed out of power, is elected out of power, and to ensure that we preserve our democracy. The greatest challenge we have today is not about anything other than the fact that we must preserve this democracy. And this democracy has been violated and has been raped and has been sodomized. It started 3.5 years ago. And you know that story about the frog, that when you have a frog and you put it in hot water, the water is boiling, the frog starts jumping, he knows he's being boiled alive. But when you put a frog in cold water and you warm up the water slowly until it gets to boiling point and the frog is literally melting, it doesn't make a move. That's what's happening to us now. We're like frogs that were put in cold water that have been boiled alive silently, and everybody's just looking at each other and just looking. When this thing started, there's nothing that Buhari is doing today that I did not say he wouldn't do during the 2015 election. Everything that he did, I said this man is going to do A, B, C, D. He has done even worse than that. And I'm saying to you now, this is a call. You know, it's not a call to literal arms, because before they say I'm inciting people to arms, I'm not doing that. But it is a call to arms, so to speak. And what I mean by that is this: we must rally around one another. We must stand for one another. Those that are in detention, we must speak for them. Those that are in the opposition, that are looking for votes, and so Atiku, we must rally around them, because, you know, he happens to be the rallying point right now. And he himself and his team and those that speak have to understand that it's not enough to just go from one rally to the other. We are resisting and fighting tyranny. We are opposing tyranny. And it's time for us to stand up together and oppose it in every single way. And what he said about the courts being shut down, about civil society speaking up, it's not just for the politicians. This is a fight for the Nigerian people. And people ought to go out in the streets, protest legitimately and lawfully, and say that enough is enough. We are not practicing democracy. This is tyranny. This is treason. This is a coup against the democratic process, and it should be rejected by every right-thinking Nigerian.
Mr. Ikenga.
I will start by saying that the only thing that needs to be done is for the people to take over from here. This is not about party politics. Exactly. It's about constitutional governance.
Absolutely.
That the president have raped and have been raping since the last 3.5 years. And that we need to show him that on this bridge, the last battle will be fought.
Yes.
Because if he crosses this bridge, constitutional governance is blown.
Absolutely.
We must stop him now. It's not about party politics. Yeah. Both the people in the judiciary, both the lawyers. I had the NBA meeting on Monday to take that decision. You have to call out lawyers. It was done in Pakistan. Let me see what he wants to do with the faction at CJN. And we must stand with Justice Wharton again. And I strongly want to call on him to go ahead today and inaugurate the tribunal, the panels that will sit on the 2019 election. He should go and do, let me see how they will carry, whether they will shoot him. He should go and do it. And let me say this. It's surprising that the president accepted a black order from a tribunal chairman. This chairman have been charged to court. Take this. This is a charge sheet filed by Festus Keyamo, the spokesperson of the Buhari campaign. They have charged Tala de Uma for allegation of collection of 10 million naira bribe, the money he collected from the custom man. They have charged him to court. There is a trial on his head by the spokesperson of the Buhari campaign.
This is in 2018.
Yes, and the president did not tell him to step aside. They did not tell him to step aside. Now he's accepting an order from this man.
Look, they are squeezing him. And this happens often. I must tell you this. In my experience, there's a particular judge, I won't mention her name. She was told clearly and categorically that simply because she acquitted me in a criminal trial, which went over 7 years, they were going to teach her a lesson of her life. They arrested this woman, detained her, charged her to go outside the NJC's recommendations and so on and so forth. And they did all this, and this is what they're doing to so many judges today. How can you have a situation where a man that has been charged or charges have been filed against him is the one that's presiding over a situation like this? Of course he will do exactly what they ask him to do, and that's what they're doing to everybody. So we are in a tyranny. We're not operating the rule of law. We're not in a democracy, and we must resist it.
We're going to open up the phone lines for everyday Nigerians to call in and voice your opinions, ask our guests questions. So we are going to have that number on the screen as soon as possible for you to call in and join this conversation. As you can see, the number is on your screen, so call in and join this conversation and share your opinions on the issues of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Gentlemen, while we are receiving calls, the popular saying is that the law is open to interpretation. Section 292 of the Constitution, which deals precisely with this matter, says that the president can only remove the CJN with 2/3 of the Senate. So now that this is suspension, does that law still apply? He's not removing him, he's just suspending him. I've seen that argument also. Does that hold any water?
You take that, please.
That is baseless and stupid. There is no provision under the law for the president to suspend the CJN and appoint an acting.
Can I just say this? Again, trying to make it as simple as possible so that people can understand what's going on. In a democracy, you have basically four arms to sustain as pillars of that democracy. That's what the American founding fathers enshrined in the Constitution of America, and we emulate that. You have the judiciary, you have the National Assembly, that's the legislature, you have the executive, and then you have the fourth estate of the realm, which is the media. Under this government, they have violated the National Assembly in a brutal way, unprecedented manner. We all witnessed this. They have violated the media and suppressed dissent in an unprecedented manner. They have now violated the judiciary in an unprecedented manner. It's never happened before. And of course, they have abused power as executive members. We must understand that we are in a tyranny. I'm repeating it. And we must stir up our people to ensure that they speak against it and they stand against it.
We have another caller. Your name and where are you calling from, please?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, your name and where are you calling from?
My name is I'm calling from.
Okay, what's your contribution?
Yes. Wanted asking Femi Fani Kayode that the CJN advocate doing wrong.
Please, sir, do us a favor and turn down your TV set. Just put your TV on mute because we're hearing an echo and the viewers can't hear what you're saying. So put your TV on mute while you're speaking to us. Okay, go ahead.
Doing wrong. And the CJN was used to forget it. And the president acted on the other code of conduct. That makes it to suspend the CJN. And one thing I wanted to do, one thing I wanted to ask you, and really good.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're finding it very difficult to hear you. Please, for our callers calling in, put your TVs on mute so we can hear what you're saying and your contribution to this discussion. Again, back to the interpretation of the law. You both have said it's stupid, it's childish, but does this argument hold any water? Can people make this argument that the Constitution does not give provisions for suspension, therefore the president is justified in his action?
Look, I'm sorry, just before you come in, I'm sorry to, look, let me just say this, okay? When Hitler was in power, Goebbels and Hitler's government justified everything they did under a misinterpretation of the laws of Germany. You can justify anything if you choose to do it by simply indulging in semantics and using stupid words, childish words that make no sense to anybody except for yourself. There is absolutely no provision in the Constitution to suspend a sitting CJ. The president cannot do it on his own. It is illegal and it is totally treasonable. It is a violation against a separate arm of government, and it is an insult on the judiciary and indeed the Nigerian people. So all these things they're saying in order to justify or defend the indefensible is unacceptable. Garba, you said, and Femi Adesina and Festus, what are they going to say? How can they defend this? I know one thing. Despite the fact that I disagree with Kayabo on so many issues, he's a pretty good lawyer and he's a smart guy, and even he will never come out to defend something because he's a senior advocate of Nigeria. I'm sorry for those like the professor from Benin, I've forgotten his name now, the constitutional lawyer, Sage, who came out. Really, frankly speaking, I ask myself sometimes, what is it that makes men like that, who are so revered and so respected, a respected professor of law, would come out to defend this sort of thing? There is no way of brandishing this as being a lawful act. It is immoral, it is unlawful, just like when a man gets up and does a military coup. It is completely immoral and unlawful, but he will seek to justify it in any way that he can, on any grounds that he can. That's what we're witnessing today, and perhaps that aspect of Buhari has not been totally purged, and he's doing it all over again.
So back to what I was saying. In the Abia case, they finally expelled the man who took up the job of acting, saying that you cannot take up that acting job without the NJSA making recommendation to the governor, to the president for that replacement. And you need to understand, for appointment of a CJN, the NJSA makes the recommendation to the president. The president forwards the recommendation to the Senate. So you cannot fire somebody that you did not appoint alone. The Constitution did not give him power to fire him. That's why the nomination comes from the NJSA, goes to the president, and then the president sends to the Senate, and the Senate confirms. And that is why the law was clear that for you to remove him for any reason whatsoever, the president sends the same whatever issue to the Senate, and the Senate would thought can remove him. In terms of suspension, if there should be anybody that should suspend the judicial office under the Constitution, it's the NJSA. So that's supposed to come before the NJSA, like they did in the case of Fabia. Then they can suspend the officer or completely retire the officer from serving. The president is not the master of the judiciary, so he has no business there. Citing the black order from Danla Duma, when they are substituting orders of court, to me, is judicial abracadabra. And what he did is executive lawlessness, and he cannot stand the test of time.
The NBA is meeting on Monday officially to discuss this issue. They released a statement, as I said earlier on in the program, that they do not they are not adopting what the president has done by suspending the CGN. They've actually asked the CGN to stay put, and he has their full support. Moving forward, I've asked already what Nigerians can do, everyday Nigerians, and we asked, and you both offered that they rally support for the CGN and also to ensure that our democratic rights are sustained as Nigerians by protesting and speaking out against this issue. Very lastly, the NBA and other civil society organization, especially political parties, as you've said, this is not about partisan politics. What can they do, leaders of thought in society? What can they also do to quell the tension of Nigerians? Because there was an alleged incident that happened in the Niger Delta of a pipeline explosion. We cannot confirm this incident. We've tried to overnight for the past 8 hours, but unfortunately we cannot. But we saw that circulation on the social media. What can the leaders do to quell the tension in our society today? Very lastly.
Well, I mean, first of all, everybody wants peace. Nobody wants violence. Nobody wants anybody to be killed or blown up. Now, having said that, it's very clear, and this principle has to be firmly understood, that when you continue to inflict tyranny on people, you push them into a corner, you deprive them of their rights, you lock them up, you kill them, you treat them with contempt and disdain, you violate all their human rights and civil liberties, and you make them feel subhuman. You make these people, you spoke about what's going on in the Niger Delta, what's allegedly going on down there. How won't they do that? When their own son is the CJN, the only Christian in the whole judicial hierarchy, the only Niger Delta man there, the only southerner there, he's just removed unceremoniously by a northern Muslim president. That's number one. How do you expect them to feel? A few years ago, you had the only person that had ever been appointed as the national security advisor of this country, again from the Niger Delta area. He too died under mysterious circumstances. Onogan is the first CJ from the south to have been appointed CJ in the last 32 years. And this is how you want to end his career? How won't they be upset? Now, they are upset, and it's not just the Niger Delta area militants. There are many young people in the east, many young people in the southwest where I come from, in the middle belt, and even in the core north, the core Muslim north, that are upset by this. But having said that, Violence has no place in this game as far as I'm concerned. Agitation, yes. To stand for our rights, yes. To operate within the confines of the law, yes. And to protest and demonstrate, yes. But not violence. And I would urge everybody, particularly the leaders and the elders, political parties, to come together and ensure that our struggle is a peaceful one, but we must do it, whatever it takes, to remove this man before he destroys the whole of our country.
Mr. Ikenga, your final words, please.
My own is that of commendation to eminent Nigerians and civil society groups. Even as I speak to you this morning, activists are already in front of American embassy as early as 7 a.m. demanding that they activate the visa ban they talked about on these key men who are behind this abracadabra. And I want to also salute the Niger Delta leaders, the Middle Belt forums, and all the eminent groups. And I also want to salute the NBA, the Senate President. All these people have pledged their loyalty and respect to the Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Walter Onagim. And I will stop by asking the Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Walter Onagim, to remain firm. He can see across all board. Nigerians are with him. Remain firm. Continue your work, and we will stand with you. As lawyers, there's no way we will go before Justice Tanko Mohammed. He's a factional CJ. He can preside over Buhari Supreme Court. We will never go there. So all I'm asking Nigerians is to continue to voice out, and that this act will not stand. I can bet my life on it.
Onoghen must not allow himself, the CJ, the authentic, to be intimidated. Right now, he's the only thing that stands between Nigeria and Nigerians and tyranny. He must stand firm, and we're solidly behind him.
Chief Femi Fani Kayode, Mr. Ikenga Ugochineri, thank you so much for joining us on today's program. We'll take a break right now. When we return, more on this issue. Don't go anywhere.